Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. In the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful, all praise is due to Allah, the Lord of all the worlds. Assalamu alaikum, peace be unto you. We want to welcome our friends in South Africa, the United States, and around the world to this week's edition of A Conversation with El-Hajj Mauri Saalakhan. I'm pleased to be your host, coming to you once again through the Salam Media platform out of Johannesburg, South Africa. Salam Media is an online portal for humanitarian journalism. We don't just report the news, we advise you on what you can do about it. Now, for today's topic, the title will be Important Lessons in the Struggle for Aafia. Important Lessons in the Struggle for Aafia. Now, this title has kind of a double significance because of the meaning of this word, this name, Aafia. You know, Muslims, we often ask Allah, the Creator, to give us Aafia in our prayers. Holistic health, you know, spiritual, mental, physical well-being. But as those of you who have been following our work and this broadcast are aware, there is also a political prisoner, one of the most well-known political prisoners in the world, who carries that name, Aafia, Dr. Aafia Siddiqui. So again, this title, it has double significance, but it is primarily focused on that political prisoner. I want to begin today's broadcast with an important piece of video. The story of Dr. Aafia Siddiqui in short, capsulized form. Let's see that video, Brother Sadiq.
She has become one of the most followed political prisoners of our time, being incarcerated for over 20 years. Why is there so much secrecy behind this case? Why are they so afraid to let her out? What does she know? And why have they been so adamant on keeping her silenced and under extreme measures of security? Wrongfully imprisoned, subjected to the horrors of torture, and caught in what many call a strategic ploy by the US government, her story has moved millions around the world, all pleading for her release. This is a story of resilience, injustice, and a cry for freedom that refuses to be silenced. This is the case of Aafia Siddiqui. Before we explain who Dr. Aafia is, we first need to understand the context of how this all unfolded. It's the year 2001, and America has just witnessed a deep tragedy, one that would go on to reshape foreign policy, fuel wars, and usher in an era of pervasive surveillance. In its wake, Islamophobia would skyrocket, casting suspicion on millions of innocent Muslims and redefining societal attitudes for decades to come. Post 9/11, the FBI would intensify its crackdown on Muslims across the US, leading to numerous detentions and deportations, often without any formal charges. But where was Dr. Aafia during all of this? Aafia was an incredibly sharp student, and in the process of completing her PhD, having already earned her undergraduate degree from MIT and pursuing her doctoral studies at Brandeis University. She was described by her peers as a devout and studious woman, and at the time, passionate about speaking up for the lives lost in the Bosnian genocide, but never labeled as an extremist. But on September 17th, President George Bush would go on to sign a secret memo that granted the CIA unprecedented authority to target and dismantle groups suspected of planning terrorist activities, enabling covert operations that bypassed traditional legal frameworks. This allowed for an increase of surveillance, detentions, and a practice involving the abduction and transfer of suspects. In other words, kidnapping. It would be these specific powers that would later go on to enable the eventual abduction of Aafia in Pakistan. It's 2003. Dr. Aafia, a Pakistani national living in the US, was facing escalating pressure from the FBI. Given her activist role in university and her extensive knowledge of neuroscience, the FBI, in a cloud of post-9/11 paranoia, began to string a case against her, even knocking on her door, questioning her husband over an online purchase. So, she and her husband decided to return to Pakistan. It would be on this trip that the couple would eventually separate, whilst Aafia was pregnant with their third child. Now, on her way to Karachi airport, heading to Islamabad, Aafia and her family would be surrounded by cars as they were forcibly dragged out of their taxi. Her infant son, Suleiman, merely 6 months old at the time, vanished without a trace and is presumed deceased. Her 3-year-old daughter was transported to Afghanistan and placed in the care of an American Christian family under the guise of a new name, severing her from her roots. Meanwhile, her eldest child, a 6-year-old boy, was incarcerated in Kabul, subjected to threats of execution should he dare disclose his true identity. He was held there for 5 years. Aafia was transferred and imprisoned at Bagram in Afghanistan's infamous detention center, often referred to as the Guantanamo of the East, a facility shrouded in secrecy, operating outside the bounds of the US and international law. Till this day, America continues to deny any claims that Aafia was ever held in a secret prison in Afghanistan. This is where the story takes an even darker turn. While imprisoned, Aafia endured brutal beatings and rape at the hands of Afghan guards. And behind a one-way glass, she was led to believe that her children were being tortured, a psychological torment so intense that she pretended not to care as a way to cope. But how was Dr. Aafia so effortlessly apprehended? And what hidden roles did the US and Pakistan play in this dark and tangled web of events? America had implemented a bounty system, offering significant sums of money to those who turned over individuals suspected of terrorism. This became a lucrative, indiscriminate trade in human lives. In his memoir, In the Line of Fire, former Pakistani President Pervez Musharraf unabashedly admits that over half of the prisoners sent to Guantanamo Bay were sold to the Americans for these large bounties. In it, he proudly details how officials profited from these transactions, with no regard for their lives being exchanged. Justice was not only neglected, but commodified, leaving countless lives shattered in its wake. It's now the year 2010, and Dr. Aafia is extradited to America to stand trial. The US became relentless in its efforts to destroy her character. The media labeled her Lady Al-Qaeda, launching a campaign of character assassination. She was prosecuted for the attempted murder of 2 FBI agents, despite the lack of forensic evidence or DNA linking her to the alleged crime. Dr. Aafia is now serving 86 years in a Texas prison. Her sister has been working tirelessly to get her release to come home, with nearly 1 million people petitioning Joe Biden to release Aafia before his term as president concludes in the coming weeks. Dr. Aafia Siddiqui's story is one of profound tragedy, resilience, and enduring injustice. Caught in the crossfire of global politics, her life represents the devastating consequences of post-9/11 paranoia and the unchecked powers of a system that disregarded due process in its pursuit of security. From her abduction in Pakistan to her imprisonment in Bagram and an eventual trial in the US, every chapter of Aafia's ordeal underscores a series of systemic failures, political manipulation, and countless human rights abuses. Dr. Aafia's case has gained the attention of millions from around the world, and there's still time and hope for her release.
Now, let me just make just a little bit of correction in something that the young man said in that otherwise excellent presentation of the story of Aafia. It is very important to note that U.S. agents, U.S. personnel were in control of Bagram. This was a prison that they were in full control of. It wasn't the Afghans. So I'm quite certain that most of, if not all, of the the torture, the abuse that Aafia suffered while imprisoned at Bagram as the only female prisoner was at the hands of Americans. Now, with that being said, the second video that I would like for our audience to see and to hear contains a very important message from my sister in Islam and the blood sister of Dr. Aafia Siddiqui, none other than Dr. Fawzia Siddiqui. Let's see that video, Brother Sadiq.
Alhamdulillah, just look around you. Did anyone think what would happen in Syria? How all those prisoners are let out? You look at the ceasefire in Gaza and all the prisoners that will come out, inshallah. But Allah's qadr will say so. Aafia too will come out and we will be celebrating. I am about 5 kilometers away from where Aafia is locked up. Tomorrow is a visit that I am dreading. A visit that I wanted to be one that I will be bringing her out. There is still time and there is still hope. The moment of truth has finally arrived. We have managed to get Aafia's petition on the radar of the White House. As we eagerly await a decision, we can't help but wonder, will America do the right thing? Will President Biden's legacy be marked by compassion and justice for women like Aafia? Or will it be a missed opportunity? Brothers and sisters, regardless of what the outcome will be, with over 1.5 million signatures supporting our clemency petition, you have all done your part. Jazakallahu khair. But we can still pray, and we still have time to pray to guide President Biden's decision and bring Aafia home. For inna Allaha alimu bizati sudur. And if this does not happen, and how many were not expecting it and would not be a surprise, but we will not stop here. We will continue. Every single one of us has shown that we have the power to make a difference. Let's keep pushing forward. And I am just reminded and comforted by an ayah in the Holy Quran. وَمَنْ يَتَوَكَّلْ عَلَى اللَّهِ فَهُوَ حَسْبُهُ إِنَّ اللَّهَ بَالِغُ أَمْرِهِ قَدْ جَعَلَ اللَّهُ لِكُلِّ شَيْءٍ قَدْرًا. And whoever relies upon Allah, and so Allah will be sufficient for him. Indeed, Allah will accomplish His purpose. Allah has already, for everything, a decree. And we will continue to pray. And we will continue to persevere. For we will persevere. And we will succeed, inshallah.
Indeed. Now, brothers and sisters, ladies and gentlemen, we just had a petition drive. It was referenced. By the time that petition drive ended, over 1.5 million people from around the world signed the petition. Over 1.5 million. And despite this overwhelming demonstration of concern, Biden, in his final hours in the White House, in fact, if I'm not mistaken, in his final hour in the White House, he denied Aafia clemency. Inshallah ta'ala, we're going to take a commercial break now. And after the commercial break, I'm going to share with you what Aafia's attorneys had to say about this denial and what comes next, inshallah. Let's go to a commercial break, Brother Sadiq.
You know, it's a wonder how kids get anything done these days. With all the distractions, when do they even get time to study? As a mother, all I can really do is make sure they have all they need to perform at their best. That's why I choose to include Sunfoil, triple refined pure sunflower oil with every meal I make. Naturally cholesterol-free and approved by the Heart and Stroke Foundation as part of a balanced eating plan. So whether I'm cooking, frying, or baking, I know every dish will be a wholesome one. Sunfoil, now we're cooking.
When the perfect blend of stylish decor, exquisite halal cuisine, and warm hospitality come together, it could only mean El-Hajj Lodge, your true home away from home. El-Hajj is the ideal heaven for families, business people, and tourists with its 4-star family rooms and other luxurious facilities. Conveniently situated close to Port Elizabeth Airport, the beach, and other amenities, your stay will be truly unforgettable, as you'll be taking home lasting memories of the warm hospitality, the serenity and tranquility that El-Hajj has to offer. For reservations, call 041 583 6415 or visit www.albaitlodge.co.za.
Valley's Motor Spares. We supply motor spares and accessories for all makes and models of motor cars, LDVs, bakkies, trucks, and earth-moving equipment. We deliver on time, every time. Please contact us via WhatsApp on 014-592-0925 or call 014-592-0925 or visit 28 Zenderling Street, Rustenburg. Remember the name, Valley's Motor Spares.
Aman means safety.
The Aman School of Excellence in Finetown, South Africa, is securing the futures of underprivileged children by providing world-class education in a safe and nurturing environment. Sponsor a child for only 15,000 Rand per year or any amount. A quality education at Aman presents a pathway out of poverty and a brighter future for South Africa.
Africa Muslims Agency. Empowering, educating, inspiring.
Breaking stereotypes, moving boundaries, joining hands. Salam Media. Humanity sets the agenda.
Welcome back. Our focus for today is on the topic important lessons in the struggle for Aafia. Now, as I noted just before going to the commercial break, over 1.5 million global citizens in countries around the world signed the petition for Aafia. And yet the outgoing President Joseph Biden denied it. This is what Aafia's lead attorney, Clive Stafford Smith, had to say about that denial. Quote, "Very sad to say that at 11:45, as one of his last deeds as president, Joe Biden denied clemency to Aafia. No explanation. I'm ashamed of him. His son gets it. Aafia doesn't. But we will move on to plan B." Now I want to read the message that came from Clive's co-counsel, Maria Carey. This sister had a very powerful message that she needed to get off her chest regarding Aafia. This is what she had to say. And she titled her piece, her commentary, "Visiting Aafia, the Fight for Aafia's Humanity and Dignity from Behind Bars." She wrote, "On Monday, just 15 minutes before leaving office, President Biden rejected Aafia's clemency petition. As I write these words, I am seething with rage and frustration. Rage at the president for engaging in political calculus, for making yet another decision devoid of moral courage, frustration because we had begged for mercy from the same president whose conscience had not been stirred by the images of thousands of dead children in Gaza. Poor Aafia. What chance did she ever have against such indifference, such political and moral cowardice? Every 6 weeks, I visit Aafia at FMC Carswell. I go into each visit feeling heavy with dread. But this time, it feels impossible. How will I meet her gaze, knowing I have come to ask her once again to stay patient? Yet I know I must visit Aafia as soon as possible, because now, more than ever, she needs to see that we are still fighting for her. I'm going to repeat that line. I agree with Maria 1000%, because now, more than ever, she needs to see that we are still fighting for her. As lawyers, we know that a plan A is just the beginning. Our duty is to prepare for every possibility, to have a contingency plan ready when the system fails, as it so often does. We were never relying solely on clemency. Clive and I always had a plan B, and I'll walk into that room armed with it, ready to show her that hope is far from lost. Alongside the plan, I'll bring verses from the Quran sent by Aafia's childhood friend, words of resilience and faith to remind us that even in the darkest moments, we must endure. And let me say parenthetically on this note, I often, when I am engaged in struggle, whether that struggle be very personal struggle or struggle on behalf of others, and everything, seems in that moment, in that hour, to be dark and gloomy, I remember that verse in the Quran that reads in translation of the meaning, "In the heavens and earth and all in between, verily or surely there are signs for those who reflect." One of the signs in this material universe of ours is that the darkest part of the night is just before the dawn of a new day, but the sun comes up again. Getting back to my sister's commentary. She goes on to write, "My last visit with Aafia had been just days before the president's decision. During this visit, I told her how millions of supporters were rallying for her freedom, how our allies had flown from around the country to DC to help us land her clemency petition on Biden's desk. I told her about Clive and my trip to New York, where we pored over 2 decades of her case. Each new discovery in her case only reinforced the truth we've always known. Aafia is innocent. That over 1.5 million people had signed a petition demanding her freedom. That nationwide khutbahs had been delivered in her name. that her story is no longer just about personal injustice, that she is a movement, a symbol of resilience, of people power, of holding truth to power. I've been to maximum security prisons in Canada. I've met with clients on death row in Pakistan. I visited fathers and mothers torn from their children for the crime of seeking asylum, only to be confined in America's immigration detention system. I have seen closely how the act of being thrown into a cage indefinitely can strip away the most fundamental dignity of a person, reducing them to nothing more than a body to be contained. And yet, Aafia's circumstances at Carswell are the most jarring prison experience I've had. While the neighboring men's prison allows contact visits, FMC Carswell does not. Legal visits with Aafia mean we are locked into side-by-side cells, separated by a large plexiglass window, forced to speak through a phone. When talking about the weight of Aafia's countless injustices overwhelms her, the only comfort I can offer her is to place my hand on the cold plexiglass that separates us. My hand hovering on a glass in front of her face, is the only way to show her she is not alone and that I am with her in this fight. Recently, I've been teaching my 4- and 2-year-old daughters about good and bad touch. At bedtime, when they are most relaxed, cuddling with their mama under the covers, I talk to them about the difference between the two types of touch. I tell them a good touch will make them feel safe, comfortable, and respected, while a bad touch will make them feel uncomfortable, scared, or confused. I explain that a bad touch is done without permission and often happens in secret or through manipulation. I tell my daughters to speak up if they experience a bad touch. Tell a trusted adult, I say, reassuring them that they won't get into trouble for speaking up, that they can say no to any touch they don't like, and that their body belongs to them and they have a right to protect it. I then think of Aafia, who has only known bad touch for 21 years, who last felt safe and loved and comforted on that fateful day on March 30th, 2003, when she cradled her 6-month-old son, Suleiman, on her way to the airport with little Miriam and Ahmed by her side. The day she hugged her mother goodbye for the last time. Since then, for 7,966 days, Aafia has endured bad touch from the men who wrenched her children away and sent Aafia to a prison in Afghanistan where she was raped and sexually humiliated, only to later face the same at Carswell, where daily touch means only feeling human contact when guards lock her wrists in handcuffs to move her between cells. Indeed, at Carswell, Aafia faces an unrelenting barrage of bad touch, the undignified strip searches where she is forced to strip fully naked for the simple task of seeing a dentist, the horrifying touch of other inmates, including one who threw scalding water on her face, leaving her scars as a painful, permanent reminder. The rapes by prison staff. Last week, as my visit with Aafia ended, she became inconsolably upset, knowing I was leaving, and she could not do the same. I couldn't bear to leave Aafia alone and in tears. So I begged the prison staff to let me put my hand on her hand. Something so basic, a small gesture of comfort to let her know she wasn't alone. But I was denied. I was told it was against prison policy and reminded, counsel, this is a non-contact visit, quote unquote. As I was quickly ushered out of the room, I felt I had failed my client in the one thing she needed most from me on that day, a moment of human connection. I had left Aafia in a cold cell, crying alone. SubhanAllah. Waiting for the guard to come in and shackle her once more. I was powerless to console her physically, and she was powerless to seek the physical comfort that every human being deserves. At that moment, I fully absorbed the truth of how prison has robbed Aafia of her most basic humanity. How the true punishment of prison is not just her loss of freedom, but the loss of the very thing that makes us human. Let's go to a break, Brother Sadiq.
Our brothers and sisters in Palestine are enduring unimaginable hardships. Ashraful Aid teams are on the ground, delivering crucial aid to those in need. But we can't do it alone. Palestine is suffering and they need your help. Your support can make a world of difference. Visit www.ashrafulaid.org today and donate to bring hope, relief, and healing to those who are in need.
Hey, Gulam.
Yeah?
Did I return your lawnmower last month?
No, Bhai, you didn't.
Oh, no. Now what'll I do? I wanted to borrow it again, man.
With Rendry Jewelers, you won't have to borrow or lend because the prices are so well trimmed on all gold and diamond jewelry. Alternatively, we could remake your old jewelry into a brilliant new design. Visit Rendry Jewelers at 151 Stevens Lamini Road, Musgrave, Durban. Rendry Jewelers, the family name you can trust.
World-class financial services only at Sapphire Global, your financial partner. If you are looking for Islamic, Sharia, and ethical financial products, look no further. Sapphire Global offers a wide range of financial service offerings from short-term to life and investments. A full-service center with all financial requirements under one brand. Our highly skilled and experienced consultants are ready to help protect your financial future. Contact us on 041 001 0184 or visit our website on www.sapphireglobalfs.com. Sapphire Global is an authorized financial services provider.
Penny Appeal's Education First campaign helps children to get access to quality education.
I'm 14 years old. When I grow up, I'd like to be a scientist.
We believe every child belongs at school,
And we want education, a better education.
learning and dreaming their way to a better future. With your help, we can provide classrooms, desks, stationery packs, and school shoes. Help make these dreams a reality. Visit www.pennyappeal.org.za or call 031 1100 573. Penny Appeal. Small change, big difference.
Listen to something fresh. Listen to Salam Media, your humanitarian broadcaster.
Welcome back. This afternoon here in the U.S., this evening in South Africa, we are dealing with the topic, the struggle, the ongoing struggle for Aafia. I want to show you another piece of video, but and then after that video, I'm going to share some perspective from another good brother of mine, someone that I've known for a good number of years. I have a tremendous amount of respect for him. He is a teacher, an educator, and a deeply committed Muslim. His name is Brother Salahuddin Abdul Karim. But before we share his message, a very important message, I want you to see some video, a little piece of video of our newly reinstalled president, Donald Trump, salivating, subhanAllah. It's like he's salivating over the waterfront property of the Gaza Strip. Now listen carefully to what President Trump has to say. Let's see that video, Brother Sadiq.
Gaza is interesting. It's a phenomenal location. On the sea, fantastic things could be done with Gaza.
Wow, Palestinians will be pleased to know that Trump wants to do fantastic things with Gaza.
Well, you certainly can't have the people that were there. Most of them are dead, by the way, right? Most of them are dead. But they didn't exactly run it well.
Oh, right. By fantastic things, what you meant was ethnic cleansing, right? To remove the native population in order to make room for expensive beachfront property for wealthy Israeli people. Incidentally, this is like exactly the thing that fringe, crazy conspiracy theorists said they were going to do like 14 months ago, right? That they were going to use the 7th of October as an excuse to annex Gaza and claim the territory as their own. That's what he's describing here. That's the fantastic thing that can be done with Gaza. You know, I actually kind of like this about Trump. He lies so much that very often he forgets what the fake truth is supposed to be and accidentally tells the real truth.
Interesting. And it is a perfect segue into this very important piece of commentary that I'm going to share with you now by our brother Salahuddin. He wrote, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. The people, Americans, put a very angry, vengeful, madman in office, DJ Trump. He has surrounded himself with oligarchs and kleptocrats. The meaning of kleptocracy is government by those who chiefly seek status and personal gain at the expense of the governed. He goes on to say, dear friends, sisters, and brothers, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. First, I want to thank Allah, the Exalted, the Most High, the only true deserving authority in this world, for granting me, us, another opportunity to serve Him, along with executing His merciful goals and objectives throughout His creation. May He, the source of all wealth and provision, suffice and care for us as we make an effort to honor our relationship with Him, the most kind, the most forgiving. Ameen. Second, only a few days have passed since vindictive Donald J. Trump assumed the office of President of the United States. Prior to becoming president, and now that he's occupying the Oval Office along with his billionaire partners in corruption and exploitation, his angry, vengeful, abusive mind and nasty spirit has surfaced for all to see. He is striking out at everyone and everything he considers an enemy. The man has wasted no time in sabotaging fringe and mainstream U.S. policies that part company with his racist, self-serving, short and long-term agenda. His campaign slogan, "Make America Great Again," MAGA, quote unquote, has always meant and is understood by his loyalists as keep America white and privileged for white, wealthy, influential people forever. The man is mean and nasty from head to toe. Third, from an Islamic perspective, Muslims are now asking themselves, where do we go from here? They are wondering and pondering what's in store for Muslims in America going forward. These reactive thoughts and questions routinely surface in our individual private minds. Unfortunately, what we continuously do and seemingly have mastered is constant community leadership failure. Let me repeat that description. This is what, according to Brother Salahuddin, we have mastered. This educator was sharing with us his deepest thoughts and critiques of us collectively. We have mastered constant community leadership failure that is devoid of a capacity, willingness, courage, and commitment to incorporate independent political ideology, philosophy, and analysis into mainstream social political circles based on Islamic principles and values. He goes on to say, at some point, we collectively, purposefully, and determinedly have to get off the trail of going nowhere and design goals and objectives that reflect our social/political responsibility in this shattered world. For this reason, we need a coach or coaches to teach, guide, and inspire us on tomorrow's social, political, economic, and cultural victories. We have more than enough very competent, dedicated wudu, ghusl, salat, dua, saum, and fiqh coaches in this country. Conversely, what we don't have is enough political, social, economic, and cultural coaches who know how to successfully navigate through America's misguided policies and advocacy. In closing, there should be large-scale community-based meetings among Muslims and issue-concerned, like-minded others in this country, America, today and tomorrow. And I would extend this to say also in other parts of the West, in the UK, in France, in Sweden, in fact, in all parts of the West and also in the global South. We need this kind of intellectual and spiritual capacity to meet the challenges of our time. Let me get back to what the brother is saying here. He said the White House's angry executive has already demonstrated in word and action what his agenda is: ingratiating and enriching himself along with snobbish billionaires while initiating immeasurable fear, worry, horror, pain, and loss for those who are not wealthy and influential. During Tuesday morning's interfaith service of prayer, a female bishop, Marianne Budd, politely and calmly invited Donald Trump to have mercy and love for those who are fearing and worried regarding what he might do to them and their families. As expected, Trump was offended by her asking him to care about terrified others, i.e., men, women, and children. He later insulted her, describing her in a very nasty, rude, arrogant tone and language, which are signature trademarks of this unhinged character. Again, it's time to be proactive regarding this madman. He is vicious and dangerous. He is reckless and incompetent. He is self-absorbed and self-serving. His sick mind and toxic soul has to be challenged through cooperative social opposition. Our movement is a moral movement calling for justice, fairness, peace, and prosperity for all people, American and non-American. This Oval Office bully is restructuring and reordering government agencies and personnel to inflict pain and punishment on those he considers scum and unmerited. I have attached a few ayat from the Quran for our study and pondering. I've also attached the bishop's speech for your reflection and pondering. One of Trump's congressional lackeys wants the bishop deported immediately. Why? Why so? Because she asked him, Trump, to consider being nice, respectful, caring, kind, loving, and more? Now, let me say parenthetically here, brothers and sisters, for those who don't know, this bishop happens to be an American-born citizen, a Caucasian woman, an American-born citizen. But blind following Trumpsters never allow facts to get in the way of opportunistic bigotry. The brother goes on to say, in Trump's unstable mind, this was a major unforgivable insult to his presidential status, to the king, to the dictator, to the autocrat, to 2025's most proud and vengeful tyrannical ruler. This is what and who millions of people wanted in office, including a rather shameful number of Muslims, I'm sorry to say. Today, this is who they have in office, a deranged, unhinged person who is very dangerous. That's the end of his commentary in the ayat for those Muslims who would like to pick up their Quran and read what our brother, subhanallah, I will include the ayat in the comment section, the surah and the ayat that he referenced for reflection. Now, let me say this. How much time do we have? A few minutes. The bishop referenced three foundational foundations for unity, three foundations for unity, she termed it. Respect for human dignity, honesty, and humility. In her final plea, she asked the president to have mercy upon the people in our country who are scared. She said there are gay, lesbian, and transgender children in Democratic, Republican, and independent families, some who fear for their lives. She then proceeded to speak about the hardworking immigrants in America who now live in fear. Now, I called the bishop's presentation in a piece of commentary that I wrote a fitting message. I wrote, while mainstream media has been sharing the final words of Bishop Marianne Edgar Budd from the inauguration ceremony of President Donald Trump, the full, deeply insightful, compassionately delivered message is worthy of note. Instead of taking the well-meaning advice to heart, Trump responded on his social media platform, as Trump often does, with arrogant disdain. There are Muslims who were also triggered by the one line in the 15-minute speech that referenced the fears of LGBTQ youth. Now, and this serves as another reminder that we as a nation have some, across the board, we have some very difficult days ahead. We have some very difficult days ahead, brothers and sisters. And this is what I had to say about the response of a few of our Muslim brothers and sisters. And I love my brethren. I love my Muslim brethren. I love my Muslim brethren, even those who disagree with me. As long as, if I believe that you are sincere in your thinking and actions, and you know, even if we disagree, if I believe that you are sincere in striving for right, even if we disagree, that love is there. And my appreciation for you is there. And my respect for you is there, even though we may disagree. Now, this is what I had to say in response to a little bit of feedback that I got, magnifying the LGBTQ reference, subhanAllah. With all due respect, we really need to stop allowing ourselves to become mentally and argumentally distracted by the LGBTQI plus fitna. If we understand and practice our deen the way we should, it's not an issue for us. If we as Muslim men and women are teaching and exemplifying our deen within our families and communities as we should, it's not an issue for us. Al-Islam is clear on such deviant behavior. There is no ambiguity whatsoever. With that being said, there is nothing wrong. And I want to emphasize this point, brothers and sisters. Please hear me loud and clear. I mean this, no matter who disagrees with me. There is nothing wrong with having empathy for those who lack moral and spiritual clarity on such challenging issues, especially in a global, laissez-faire, anything-goes culture. There's nothing wrong with having compassion for those who are afraid, who are struggling, who are living, existing in shadows of fear. In a 15-minute address, Bishop Marion Edgar Budd had one line where she stated there are gay, lesbian, and transgender children in Democratic, Republican, and independent families, some who fear for their lives. She then proceeded to speak about the hardworking immigrants in America who now also live in fear. What's wrong with this? What's wrong with her calling out to the President of the United States, the so-called leader of the free world, and asking him to have mercy on those who are existing in silos of fear? What's wrong with that? I don't know about you, but my Islam informs me that it's possible to have compassion without unprincipled compromise. And with that said, I will end on this note. And surely Allah knows best. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Wal Asr. Innal insana lafi kusr. Illa alladina amanu wa amalu salihati. Wa tawasaw bil haqq. Wa tawasaw bis sabr. This means, in the translation of the meaning, in the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful, by the token of time through the ages, surely humanity is in loss, except those who believe and do good, and exhort one another to truth, and exhort one another to patiently persevere. Peace be unto you. Assalamu alaikum.